Man, making games on Roblox is hard. I started Roblox development 1.5 years ago, and since I began, I released 3 different games that all didn't end up being successful. I lost money with pretty much every single game that I released, but don't get me wrong, I don't see these games as complete failures because I have learned a lot from making them, and I want to share some of my most valuable learnings in this video. So if you are interested in making Roblox games, this video might contain some very important information for you. If you are new on this channel, please subscribe. I plan on making a lot more videos about my experiences on Roblox development and game development in general. So yeah, if you want to help me out and if you don't want to miss any of those future videos, please subscribe. Now, the first and most valuable lesson that I have learned with my releases is that I need to make games that have replayability. 2 of the 3 games that I have released were obbies. And I do know that some obbies are very successful and make a lot of money, but the thing with obbies is that once you beat the obby, there's literally nothing else that you can do as a player. Once you beat the obby, you quit the game, you never touch it again. The most successful obby that I know of is Tower of Hell, and Tower of Hell has a very good replayability because every time you join the game, it's literally a completely randomly generated obby. And then you get 7 minutes to beat that obby, and after the 7 minutes, a new obby is generated and you start again. Tower of Hell has infinite replayability. The 2 obby games that I released didn't have that replayability, and at first I thought that was fine because my games had some twist. In my first game that I released, you didn't play as the default Roblox character, you played as a little bunny or a rabbit, and you had to jump through the level with a custom character controller. And that is cool and all, but still the fact remains that after completing my level, it's over, there is nothing else to do. And in my second obby game, you had to climb up a tower, and every few seconds, the truss parts that you climb on get electrified. And so every time you hear the sirens in the background that tell you that the trusses get electrified in 3 seconds, you have to jump off the trusses and then wait until the trusses are not charged anymore. And again, for me at least, this is a cool twist, but the fact remains that after completing this obby, there's nothing else to do, and so the average playtime is pretty low. And the average playtime is very important for the Roblox algorithm. And so if you want your finite obby game to be pushed by the algorithm, you have to design a very, very large obby. And this is a lot of work for still a non-replayable game. And so this is not the best format for a successful Roblox game. And of course, you can make a successful obby. There's plenty of obbies that make a lot of money, but I think the obby needs to have some twist, something that makes it special, that makes it stand out from the other Roblox games. The obby also has to be very large, or you need to make your obby super replayable, like Tower of Hell, for example, that generates a new obby every few minutes. So this was my first learning. I need to make my games more replayable because otherwise I have a very short average playtime. The retention is gonna be very bad, which is also a very important metric for the algorithm. And obviously, the less time people play your game, the less money they are gonna spend on it. My next huge learning is that I need to make my games less frustrating. People on Roblox have a very low tolerance for frustration. So if they start your game and they instantly die because it's too hard or the game is too complex and they don't immediately get what they have to do, they just leave. And when people leave in the first minute, your average playtime is gonna be awfully low. And a low average playtime kills your game. So you need to make sure that your game is not frustrating, that it's not too hard. You have to increase the difficulty very slowly, and you need to make sure that your core gameplay loop is not too complex, because if they don't understand the gameplay loop, they will just leave. Looking back at my obby game where you play as a rabbit, I realized that this game was just way too difficult for the average Roblox player. I designed this game so that it was challenging for me personally, but I've been playing video games for 25 years now. In my free time, I play a lot of retro video games, and retro games were designed very differently from how Roblox games are designed. One of my favorite games is Super Ghouls and Ghosts for the Super Nintendo. This game is notoriously difficult, and I played this game for so long that I even got the true ending. The ending where you have to beat the game twice in a row without turning off your console. So my personal tolerance for difficulty in video games is very much different from kids that play Roblox on their tablets or phones. And this isn't a bad thing. I really don't mean this in a bad way. When I was a kid, I also didn't have this frustration tolerance. But I really need to make sure that when I design my games, I think about that more, that I think about the frustration tolerance of the target audience. And I really need to get this idea out of my head that a game has to be difficult in order to be fun, or that it has to have some complex systems for the players to interact with. This really isn't the case, and I really need to get this idea out of my head. What I realized is that I shouldn't design my games like systems. I think I should design my games more like movies or YouTube videos, at least when it comes to the first 10 to 15 minutes of the games. Because the first 10 minutes of a player that joins your game decide if they stay, bring some friends, or even spend some Robux on your game, or if they just leave in the first 2 minutes, bring down your average playtime and retention metrics, and never touch your game again. Even if there are players that stay and really like your game, when lots of people leave your game immediately after joining, they can kill your game by sending bad signals to the algorithm. So you need to make sure that the average person that joins your game has a smooth experience, and for that you need to make sure that the first 10 minutes or 15 minutes of your games are designed very carefully. The good thing is that Roblox gives you all the tools that you need for analyzing how your players interact with your games and at which point they give up and leave. For example, you can create funnels for tracking your players' progress. And it's actually incredible how much data you can analyze in your game's analytics dashboard. When I started Roblox development and I released my first game, I really didn't use all these features. I didn't use funnels, I didn't look at my analytics. At first I pushed updates for my games completely blind, and I didn't understand why things didn't work. And so another very valuable lesson that I learned is that I should always use every single tool that Roblox provides for analyzing the player's behavior. I also released one game that wasn't an obby, but rather a puzzle game where you have to merge cubes. It's a typical 2048 game, and this game had many different problems. The first and most obvious problem is that this game is very difficult. We talked about this before, especially in the beginning, your games shouldn't be frustrating. But the bigger problem with this game is that it was a single player game, completely single player. And of course you can make games that play like single player games on Roblox, and these games can be successful, but because Roblox is a social platform, your games should have some social component to them. You should be able to see what other players are doing. You should be able to compare yourself with the other players. Maybe add player interactions that are not very important to the core gameplay loop, but are just fun, like trolling each other, showing off cool skins, doing silly emotes, stuff like that. I think the social component is very important for Roblox games, and in the future I will think more about how I can integrate these social components into my games. I want to focus more on multiplayer games in the future, but even if I make a game that feels like a single player game, I still want to add some social features to it. The last thing that I want to talk about is ads. Even though my games weren't really successful, I am super happy with how ads work on Roblox, because with a low amount of money, you can get a lot of players for testing your games. The last ad that I did was for my tower obby, and I paid $20 for over 1,000 players. That's crazy. So with ads, you can do some really inexpensive play tests very quickly. And so if you have a prototype for a game, you can just make an ad, see how the players interact with your game, and then decide if the game idea is worth pursuing further. So those were some of my most important learnings from my first 1.5 years on Roblox. I am planning to incorporate all of this knowledge into my next game project. So I hope my next projects will be more successful, but we'll see. I will not give up. And of course, I will post about my next projects here on this YouTube channel, so if you don't want to miss that, please subscribe. And of course, I will also share all of my future learnings on this channel. So subscribing will be worth it. But that's it for this video. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next one.